I think the important thing to know right now about Dylan, because the film deals with our difficulties in this relationship and how he went through the years and years and years afterwards, I did, being resentful.
What has Bob Dylan been hiding for all these years? At 83, after decades of mystery, the legendary singer-songwriter has finally opened up, revealing the secrets that have kept fans guessing for over half a century. From his turbulent romantic entanglements to the woman he calls the love of his life, Dylan has spent decades keeping his personal life under lock and key. But now, the truth is out. For the first time, Dylan sheds light on the rumors, admitting what we've all been wondering about his past relationships, the women who shaped his music, and the enigmatic love story that shaped his very soul. You won't believe what he's finally confessed. Dylan's convoluted romantic history. Bob Dylan's romantic life has been a topic of speculation for decades. It's not just his music that has captured the world's attention, but also the complicated relationships he has had with some of the most influential women of his time. From his early love affairs to his secret marriages, Dylan's personal life has been as enigmatic and captivating as his music. In fact, many of his greatest songs were inspired by his relationships, making his romantic history just as intriguing as his lyrics. One of the earliest women in Dylan's life was Echo Hellstrom, his high school sweetheart, who shared his passion for rhythm and blues. Their relationship began during his teenage years in Hibbing, Minnesota, and though it was brief, it marked the beginning of Dylan's exploration of love, music, and the complexities of life. Their connection would shape Dylan's early thoughts on romance and, in many ways, laid the groundwork for his future relationships. However, their love story came to an end in 1964 as Dylan's rise to fame began to separate him from the more personal and intimate aspects of his life. But it was in 1963 that Dylan's first major, publicly documented romance began, with Joan Baez, the queen of folk music. Their partnership became one of the most iconic relationships of the 1960s, both musically and romantically. Together, they were an undeniable force on the folk scene, and their music became the voice of a generation. The two performed together on stage and collaborated on songs, and their relationship was considered one of the most powerful duos in the folk world. But just like the music they created, their love was complicated and full of tension. Baez, an activist and a powerhouse in the folk community, was as politically and socially conscious as Dylan, but their personal relationship was not as harmonious. While they shared a deep connection through music, Dylan's increasing disillusionment with the folk movement and his growing interest in rock and roll created a rift between them. Baez, on the other hand, remained deeply embedded in the folk scene, which ultimately led to the end of their romantic relationship by 1965. Their parting was not just about the music, it was about their different paths in life. Baez continued to follow the folk movement's principles, while Dylan was slowly evolving into a completely different sound, one that would forever change the course of music history. Even after their romantic split, Baez and Dylan continued to respect one another, and their relationship was far from over. They remained friends, and Baez continued to perform with Dylan on occasion. Perhaps one of the most poignant songs about their relationship came from Baez herself. Her track, Diamonds and Rust, written in 1975, paints a reflective picture of her relationship with Dylan, capturing the beauty and the heartbreak of their time together. The song, with its gentle rhythm and poignant lyrics, stands as a tribute to the love and pain that defined their time together. But Dylan's love life didn't end with Baez. In 1965, Dylan married Sarah Lowndes, a model and his second significant romantic partner. Their marriage, which lasted for over a decade, was far more private than his earlier relationships, and they had 4 children together. Sarah, a key figure in Dylan's life, became the subject of many of his most intimate songs, such as Sarah from his 1976 album Desire. Their relationship, though far from perfect, was a period of relative stability in Dylan's chaotic personal life. Despite their challenges, their marriage was a significant chapter for Dylan, and the songs he wrote during that time reflect a deep connection between the couple. However, just as Dylan's marriage to Sarah was beginning to show signs of strain, another chapter unfolded in his love life, one that would remain a secret for many years. In 1986, Dylan married Carolyn Dennis, a backup singer who had worked with him on his tours. This marriage, unlike his first, was kept under wraps. The couple kept their relationship private, and their daughter, Desiree, was born in 1986. Even after their divorce in 1992, Dylan and Dennis kept their relationship and their daughter away from the public eye, deciding together to keep this part of their lives as private as possible. It wasn't until 2001 that the public learned of this marriage and the existence of their daughter. This secrecy was a mutual decision made to protect Desiree from the public scrutiny that often accompanies the children of famous musicians. Though Dylan's romantic life was marked by secrecy, heartbreak, and change, his relationships continued to shape his music. Every love story, whether short-lived or enduring, left an imprint on his songwriting. Songs like Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, and Ballad in Plain D gave voice to the heartbreak he experienced, while tracks like Sarah reflected the more tender aspects of his relationships. Dylan's ability to capture the emotional complexity of love, whether it was joy, pain, longing, or regret, became one of his greatest musical trademarks. But who was the one woman that Dylan truly considered the love of his life, the one who changed him forever? Dylan's greatest love. Bob Dylan's love life has always been a subject of fascination for fans, but no relationship has had as profound an impact on both Dylan's personal growth and his music as his romance with Suze Rotolo. Dylan himself has referred to her as the love of his life, and it's clear from his music that their connection was unlike any other. Their passionate yet turbulent relationship would shape Dylan's artistry in ways that no one could have predicted. Suze Rotolo was introduced to Dylan in 1961 when they met at a folk concert in Manhattan. For Dylan, it was love at first sight. Rotolo, a politically active and socially conscious artist, immediately captivated him. Her golden hair, sharp intellect, and the way she challenged Dylan's thinking made her an irresistible force in his life. But beyond physical attraction, it was the deep intellectual and emotional connection they shared that marked their relationship as something truly unique. Rotolo introduced Dylan to new ideas and themes, particularly those of social justice, civil rights, and political activism, which would later become central to his music. At the time, Dylan was still finding his way in the folk scene, and Rotolo's influence was transformative. She exposed him to ideas that would forever change his songwriting. She was the one who encouraged Dylan to explore folk music's political dimension and to infuse his songs with more direct commentary on societal issues. This is reflected in some of his most iconic early works, such as Blowing in the Wind and The Times They Are A-Changin', which became anthems of the civil rights movement and anti-war protests. Their relationship was both a personal and intellectual partnership, one that shaped Dylan's identity as a musician and as a man. However, despite their intense connection, their romance was far from perfect. As Dylan's career took off, the pressures of fame began to weigh heavily on their relationship. Rotolo's family, particularly her mother, was wary of Dylan's rising fame and saw him as a potential threat to their daughter's stability. They were concerned that Dylan's fast-paced, chaotic lifestyle would be too much for Rotolo to handle, and they were not wrong. As Dylan's fame grew, so did the distance between them. In 1963, Rotolo decided to leave the United States and move to Italy to study, feeling overwhelmed by the media attention and the pressures of being in a relationship with someone so famous. Their long-distance relationship became even more strained, as the physical distance between them made it harder for them to maintain the connection they once shared. Though they tried to rekindle their romance, when Rotolo returned to New York City in 1963, the issues that had plagued their relationship remained unresolved. The tensions between Rotolo's desire for independence and Dylan's increasing fame created an insurmountable barrier, and by the summer of 1964, they parted ways for good. Their breakup had a profound effect on Dylan, and he channeled the pain and heartache he felt into some of his most iconic songs. Don't Think Twice, It's All Right is widely considered to be one of Dylan's greatest songs about heartbreak and the bittersweet feeling of a relationship that has run its course. The song reflects the conflicted emotions Dylan felt toward Rotolo. On one hand, he knew the relationship was over, but on the other, there was still a lingering affection that he couldn't shake. The resignation in the song's lyrics mirrors the emotional complexity of their breakup, and it remains one of Dylan's most raw and vulnerable pieces of music. Another song that captures the intensity of their relationship is Ballad in Plain D, which Dylan released in 1964. Unlike Don't Think Twice, which is more reflective and wistful, Ballad in Plain D is bitter and angry. The song describes Dylan's feelings of resentment and betrayal, not just about Rotolo, but also about the entire situation they found themselves in. It reflects the anger and disillusionment he felt after their breakup and paints a harsh, almost vindictive picture of their relationship. The song also includes references to Rotolo's sister, which adds a layer of personal vendetta to the lyrics. Years later, Dylan would admit that he regretted releasing Ballad in Plain D, acknowledging that it came from a period of intense emotional turmoil and vulnerability that he should have handled differently. Despite their breakup, Rotolo remained a significant figure in Dylan's life. Even after their split, Dylan would continue to reflect on their time together in his music. Songs like Tomorrow is a Long Time and Boots of Spanish Leather were influenced by the feelings of longing and loss that he carried after their separation. Rotolo's impact on Dylan was not limited to their time together. Her influence on him would continue to reverberate throughout his music for years to come. In interviews later in life, Dylan would reflect on how his relationship with Rotolo helped shape his understanding of love, loss, and the complexities of human connection. He often spoke about how she helped him become more politically aware, and how she introduced him to the world of folk music's activist roots. Rotolo's influence extended far beyond their romantic connection. It was a formative period in Dylan's life that shaped both his personal philosophy and his music. Rotolo, for her part, has remained largely out of the public eye, but her impact on Dylan is undeniable. She appeared on the cover of the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, forever immortalized as the symbol of Dylan's early success. That album, and the songs contained within it, would go on to become some of the most important works of the 1960s, and much of that is due to Rotolo's presence in Dylan's life. In many ways, she was the catalyst for the artistic explosion that would follow, as Dylan's time with her encouraged him to dive deeper into the political and social themes that would define his music. Dylan's relationship with Rotolo was complex, filled with passion, tension, and ultimately heartbreak, but it was also one of the most important connections in his life. It was a relationship that helped define the artist he would become, influencing some of his most iconic music. Even today, Rotolo remains a crucial figure in understanding the early years of Bob Dylan's musical and personal journey. But was Suze Rotolo really the one woman who captured Dylan's heart forever? Or did someone else leave an even bigger mark on him, one that would forever change the course of his life and music? The secrets behind Dylan's marriages, hidden relationships, and untold stories. Bob Dylan's romantic history has always been one of music's best-kept secrets. While his life has been an open book in terms of his music, his relationships have often remained shrouded in mystery. Dylan, the master of keeping his personal life under wraps, has long guarded the intricacies of his romantic entanglements. But as the years have gone by, the curtain has slowly been pulled back, revealing the complexities of Dylan's marriages and the women who have had an indelible influence on his life and art. Dylan's marriage to Carolyn Dennis, one of his most secretive unions, was hidden from the public eye for over a decade. In 1986, Dylan secretly married Carolyn Dennis, a backup singer who worked with him throughout the 1980s. Their relationship, unlike any of Dylan's previous marriages, was kept completely private. The couple had a daughter, Desiree, born in 1986, but for years, Dylan and Dennis kept their relationship and their family life away from the prying eyes of the media. Even after their divorce in 1992, the existence of their marriage and their child remained a well-kept secret, and the world didn't learn about it until 2001, when the information was finally disclosed. The secrecy surrounding their relationship was not just about keeping up appearances. It was rooted in Dylan's desire to protect his family from the overwhelming media scrutiny that accompanied his fame. Carolyn Dennis herself revealed that their decision to keep their marriage private was mutual, and that they both agreed to shield their daughter from the intense spotlight that could have robbed her of a normal childhood. Dylan's public persona as one of the world's most iconic musicians made it almost impossible for him to lead a simple, quiet life with his family, so he chose to keep his personal life as secluded as possible. What was especially surprising to many was the extent to which Dylan went to keep this relationship hidden. In an era when the lives of celebrities are often on full display for public consumption, Dylan's desire for privacy was striking. While many were caught off guard by the revelation of his marriage to Dennis, it is clear that this secrecy was an essential part of Dylan's desire to maintain some semblance of normalcy in his life. For Dylan, this marriage was not just another chapter in his personal history. It was a deeply important part of his journey as a father and as a man who valued privacy. But Carolyn Dennis was not the only woman Dylan had a secret relationship with. His first significant marriage, to Sarah Lowndes, also carried a sense of secrecy. Dylan and Sarah married in 1965, a few years after Dylan had shot to fame. They had 4 children together, and throughout their marriage, Sarah played a significant role in Dylan's life. However, their marriage, much like his later relationships, was not without its struggles. As Dylan's fame skyrocketed, their private life was constantly under the microscope, and it eventually took its toll on their relationship. Dylan's song Sarah, from the album Desire, reflected the depth of his feelings for her. The lyrics, filled with emotion, convey both love and longing for the woman who had been a constant presence in his life. Yet, beneath the surface of their seemingly stable marriage, there were tensions, many of them linked to Dylan's rising fame and his need for privacy. The pressures of being constantly in the public eye eventually led to their divorce in 1977. But despite the separation, Sarah continued to influence Dylan's music for years to come. The secrecy surrounding both of these marriages suggests a deeper truth about Dylan's character, his desire to separate his private life from his public persona. Dylan has always been known for his elusive nature, and this trait extended to his romantic relationships. Even as his music dominated the charts, and he became an international superstar, Dylan remained determined to keep his personal life out of the limelight. In doing so, he created an aura of mystery around him that only fueled the public's fascination with his personal life. After his divorce from Carolyn Dennis, Dylan's romantic life continued to be a subject of curiosity. Though rumors of relationships circulated, Dylan has always remained tight-lipped about his love life. He has never publicly commented on any romantic entanglements, keeping his relationships as private as his music. This is not to say that Dylan was without emotional turmoil after his divorce. His relationships with women have been central to many of his most emotionally charged songs. But for Dylan, his personal life was just that, personal. But why did Dylan keep these marriages so deeply hidden? Was it solely about protecting his family? Or was there something else at play? Could there be more secrets in Dylan's past, waiting to be uncovered? The rumored love of his life. Among all the women in Bob Dylan's life, none have had as profound an impact on him as Suze Rotolo. Often referred to by Dylan as the love of his life, Rotolo was a muse who not only inspired Dylan's early music, but also helped shape his creative vision and his understanding of love, loss, and human connection. Theirs was a passionate yet tumultuous relationship, and while it didn't last, the impact Rotolo had on Dylan's music is undeniable. Dylan first met Suze Rotolo in 1961 at a folk performance in Manhattan, and it was, according to Dylan, love at first sight. Rotolo was an artist in her own right, politically conscious and intellectually vibrant. At the time, Dylan was still finding his voice as a folk musician, and Rotolo quickly became the woman who would shape his artistic and emotional development. She was not just a lover, but a confidant and an intellectual companion who opened his eyes to new ideas and perspectives, especially concerning social justice and political activism. Rotolo was the one who encouraged Dylan to engage with the civil rights movement, and her influence can be heard in some of Dylan's most famous songs, including Blowing in the Wind and The Times They Are A-Changin'. Her presence in his life brought a new depth to his songwriting, allowing him to take on complex issues such as racism, inequality, and injustice, topics that had not been as prominent in popular music at the time. Their relationship was intense, filled with passion and intellectual engagement, but it was also fraught with difficulties. Rotolo's family was wary of Dylan's rise to fame, and the pressure of being in a relationship with someone who was becoming a cultural icon began to strain their connection. As Dylan's fame grew, so did the tensions in their relationship. Rotolo felt the weight of being constantly in the public eye, and by 1963, she decided to leave Dylan and move to Italy to study. The distance between them created even more strain, and by 1964, their relationship had ended for good. The breakup left Dylan heartbroken, and many of his most iconic songs were born from the emotional turmoil he felt during and after their split. Don't Think Twice, It's All Right remains one of Dylan's most powerful songs about heartbreak. The song captures the complexity of love, its joy, its pain, and the resignation that sometimes accompanies the end of a relationship. The emotional depth of the song speaks to the feelings Dylan had toward Rotolo, who, despite their separation, continued to live in his heart and in his music. Dylan has often spoken about his regrets regarding the end of his relationship with Rotolo. He later admitted that he had been deeply affected by their breakup, and much of his early music was a reflection of his longing for her. Songs like Boots of Spanish Leather are believed to be about his feelings of loss and the emotional journey he underwent after their split. Dylan's music was always personal, but with Rotolo, it became a window into his soul, expressing emotions that he could not fully articulate in any other way. Even years after their breakup, Rotolo's influence on Dylan remained undeniable. In interviews, Dylan has often referred to her as the person who helped shape his early music and his outlook on life. She was the one who introduced him to new political and artistic ideas, and in doing so, she became the catalyst for the change that would transform him from a folk singer into a cultural icon. Despite the passage of time and the many relationships that followed, Dylan's love for Suze Rotolo never faded. She remained one of the most important figures in his personal and artistic journey, and their relationship is often seen as the turning point in his career. It was with her that Dylan first learned to combine personal experience with political awareness, and it was through their time together that Dylan created some of his most enduring and powerful music. A life beyond the music. Bob Dylan's career has spanned more than 6 decades, and his influence on both music and culture is immeasurable. From his early days as a folk singer to his electrifying shift to rock and roll, Dylan has constantly reinvented himself, defying categorization and expectation. He's not just a musician, he's a cultural icon, an artist whose work transcends genres and has shaped the fabric of modern popular music. But while his music continues to evolve, it's clear that Dylan's impact reaches far beyond the studio or the stage. One of the most significant aspects of Dylan's legacy is his ability to tap into the collective consciousness. In the 1960s, his songs became anthems for the civil rights movement, anti-war protests, and the counterculture revolution. Songs like Blowing in the Wind and The Times They Are A-Changin' became rallying cries for a generation of young people who sought change in a world marked by social upheaval. Dylan was not just writing music, he was speaking directly to the soul of the era, addressing issues that were shaping society in real time. Even as Dylan moved away from overtly political music in the 1970s, his songs continued to capture the emotional undercurrent of the times. Albums like Blood on the Tracks and Desire marked a shift toward more personal and introspective songwriting, but they retained the poetic depth and complexity that Dylan had become known for. He was no longer just the voice of the revolution, he was now the voice of the individual, exploring themes of love, loss, redemption, and existential questioning. In many ways, these albums represent Dylan's maturation as an artist, as he evolved from the youthful firebrand of the 1960s to a more introspective and reflective figure. As the decades passed, Dylan's influence expanded beyond the world of folk and rock music. His impact on the genres of country, blues, and even gospel is profound, and his experimentation with different musical styles has always kept his work fresh and relevant. In the 1980s, he surprised fans by embracing Christian themes in his music, producing 3 gospel albums that were met with mixed reactions from critics. but demonstrated his willingness to take risks and challenge expectations. His decision to explore religious themes was another example of his ability to evolve and keep his audience on their toes. In the 1990s and 2000s, Dylan continued to reinvent himself, releasing critically acclaimed albums like Time Out of Mind, 1997, and Rough and Rowdy Ways, 2020, the latter of which received widespread praise for its return to the raw, confessional style of songwriting that had defined his early career. These albums, along with his endless touring, have ensured that Dylan remains not only relevant but vital in the ever-changing landscape of modern music. But Dylan's legacy isn't just about the music, it's about his role in shaping popular culture. He's not only an artist who changed the sound of music, he's an artist who changed the way we think about music, art, and identity. His ability to blend literature, poetry, and music has set him apart from his peers and cemented his status as a true visionary. Dylan's lyrics have been analysed, debated, and dissected by fans, critics, and scholars alike, and his work has been the subject of countless studies, books, and documentaries. He has been recognized with numerous awards, including a Nobel Prize in Literature, further cementing his place as one of the most important cultural figures of the 20th and 21st centuries. Beyond his work as a musician, Dylan's contributions to the world of visual art have also garnered attention. His paintings and drawings, which have been displayed in prestigious galleries, offer a glimpse into the mind of an artist who has never been content to rest on his laurels. Dylan's visual art reflects the same sense of experimentation and curiosity that has defined his music. Like his songs, his paintings are often raw, emotive, and filled with layers of meaning that reveal themselves over time. In terms of his personal life, Dylan's family and relationships have also contributed to his legacy. Despite his desire for privacy, his children have often spoken about the love and care Dylan gave them. His son, Jacob Dylan, has followed in his father's footsteps, becoming a musician in his own right with his band, the Wallflowers. Jacob has spoken publicly about the influence Dylan had on his own music, but he has also described the challenges of growing up with such an iconic father. Dylan's other children have remained relatively private, but there's no doubt that his role as a father has played a significant part in shaping the man he has become. Dylan's later years have been marked by a continued passion for creating and performing, with his never-ending tour taking him to stages around the world well into his 70s. While some critics have questioned his vocal performances in recent years, there's no denying the enduring power of his presence on stage. Dylan has always been about more than just the music. He's about the experience, the connection with the audience, and the energy that he brings to each performance. His shows have become legendary, with fans flocking to see him perform live, even if they're unsure of what they'll hear. Dylan's concerts are a reminder that, even at 83, he's still an artist who refuses to be pigeonholed, still pushing boundaries and challenging both himself and his audience. Despite the controversies, rumors, and the many personal struggles that have marked his career, Bob Dylan has remained a symbol of artistic integrity. His unwillingness to conform, his refusal to let his music be dictated by trends, and his commitment to remaining true to his own vision have made him a role model for generations of musicians. Dylan's journey is not just a story of musical success, it's a story of resilience, reinvention, and an unwavering commitment to the power of artistic expression. As Bob Dylan continues to evolve, so does his legacy. But what is the next chapter in this legendary artist's story? Will he continue to push the boundaries of music and art, or has he already secured his place in history? Bob Dylan's love life was filled with complexities, heartbreak, and lasting connections, but none were as formative and influential as his romance with Suze Rotolo. Their passionate and tumultuous relationship became the bedrock for many of his greatest songs, and Rotolo's impact on Dylan's artistry is still felt today. Was Suze Rotolo truly the love of Dylan's life, or did someone else capture his heart in a way we'll never fully understand? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories from the legends of music.